What up? Welcome to New York City. I'm Bill Reiter. This is Reiter's Block. We got a great show planned for you. Chicago Cubs ace Jon Lester is on the show. New England Patriots Super Bowl champion Lawrence Guy is going to join me. And a guy named Zion is back, and it means big things for Duke. All starting right now here from New York City. We've got Duke UNC, the trilogy, part 3 for this season, and it's in large part because Zion Williamson wasn't just awesome, he was perfect in his return, a perfect 14 of 14 from the field. By the way, that ties an ACC record for the most shots made without a miss. Zion was an absolute beast and an absolute stud. 29 points, 14 rebounds, 5 steals, a block shot for good measure, a whole bunch of dunks. He dominated the game and reminded all of us of not just how mesmerizing he is, but how important he is for that Duke team. And after the game, Trey Jones talked about what his teammate brings to the mix.
He's able to affect the game so many different ways, not only when he has the ball, but when he's away from the ball or on defense, he's able to affect the game as well. So, I mean, it's great having him back, and we're able to feed off him a lot.
All right, we're not talking hyperbole here. Literally, we're going to show you how this works. Zion's impact on this Duke team is markedly important to whether or not Duke is the champion favorite or just another pretty good basketball team. 24-2 when the dude is out there, and a straight 500 team. That's the definition of mediocrity when he is not. The reality is that Zion is so different and does so many different things that so few players are able to do at the level he does them at, that it takes this talented young Duke team like some kind of weird alchemy, and he's the secret ingredient that makes them a force of nature. And both coaches last night, Coach K and Jim Boeheim, talked about and understood Zion's impact on the game.
I've seen a lot of great players. I'm not saying he's better than those guys, but he's a different player. He can do things that nobody has done in this game.
I never try to make them like somebody else. You know, they didn't come to Duke to be a 4 or 3 or like Jason Tatum or Brandon Ingram. They came to see who they were going to become.
I gotta tell you, like, we're just a really quick aside. Zion Williamson's also done something that no other Duke player has ever accomplished in the storied history of that program under Coach K. He's made Duke really likable. You know it's true. If you're a Duke hater, I've got a little bit of that in me too. I'm not just watching Duke play. I find myself rooting for them and feeling whatever weird joy you do for a team that we're more accustomed to hating. There's just something about Zion that makes the game more interesting, that makes his team better, and that amazingly, and it's sports magic, that actually makes Duke, at least this season, likable. And that's a big part of the reason that Duke versus UNC Part 3 tonight is so interesting. The game is tonight. And another sort of thing to keep an eye on, I know it's a long shot, we're still looking at the possibility, if UNC can win this game and make a run, depending how the committee judges and assesses Duke and the losses they had when Zion was out, maybe, especially with the Zags losing, maybe the ACC gets 3 number 1 seeds. In fact, 3 of the top 4 betting favorites according to Vegas are, you guessed it, ACC schools. You know who they are. They're Virginia, they're Duke, and of course they're UNC. So tonight's game is huge for seeding and a huge reminder that the ACC is back where it used to be, at the absolute top of the mountain in college basketball, and a dominating force to win it all, which is a big part of the reason you can see there that Duke's odds to win the whole thing are silly at 9-4, and those odds are probably going to continue to move in Duke's favor as bettors and gamblers and sports fans become really committed and convinced that Zion is back, that he's healthy, and obviously we saw last night he's committed to being out there. Zion Williamson is such a stud and a joy to watch, and one of many reasons it's going to be a really cool tournament this year. Cannot wait for tonight's game, UNC Duke, and to see Zion do his thing in the weeks ahead, and when he gets to the NBA in the years ahead. We've got a lot of stuff for you today, right? We open with some basketball. Jon Lester, the Cubs ace, is going to join me here in just a few minutes, and then we're going to transition to some NFL with Lawrence Guy, the New England Patriot. But first, I'm going to try not to geek out as a Cubs fan. Jon Lester, Cubbies ace, going to join me live from Arizona here in just a second. All right, welcome back into the show. Bill Reiter with you here on Reiter's Block. If you watch the show, you know I'm a lifelong Cubs fan. So I'm always thrilled when we have these kind of guests, but it's particularly cool that we're going to go right now to Arizona and visit with Chicago Cubs ace Jon Lester. He's going to talk to us about spring training, this ball club, Never Quit, his charitable organization that raises money for pediatric cancer research. Jon, thanks for making time, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm not going to geek out, even though I'm a big Cubs fan. I'm just going to ask questions like a professional. Let's start with this one. How you feeling this spring? How are things going so far?
They're going. I mean, kind of spring training right now, just getting into kind of that 5-day rotation and routine that we're getting used to get into the season. And, I think we got 2, maybe 3 more starts before we start, for real. So it's good. It's going well right now. Kind of down to the nitty-gritty here towards the end.
I can remember back in my newspaper writing days when I covered spring training in the Royals, Zach Greinke used to always stress that himself and a lot of other pitchers would just work on whether their fastball or their cutter, their curveball, that you couldn't really read much into performance of a lot of the guys out there pitching-wise in spring training because they were working on pitches. What's your approach? What's your philosophy? What are you trying to do during spring training?
I think kind of the same thing. For me, it's about fastball command, and then with that comes, the other pitches. So really, it's like I said before, kind of getting back into that routine. I got to get my routine figured out and get that hammered home, and make sure we get to the pitches and the innings that we need to go into the season and be ready to go.
What's your read and your thoughts on the Cubs starting rotation this season?
I love our rotation. I've talked about it a couple times. I know we've got the 3 lefties, and then obviously Hughes looked great. So far this spring, he seems comfortable. He seems ready to go. And then obviously you got Kyle doing what he does, year in and year out. So the thing I like about us is we're all different. We're all unique, and we all have kind of our I don't want to say specialties, but we all pitch very different. So it's nice to have 5 guys that don't really attack hitters the same way.
From the lineup to the rotation, big expectations for the Cubs, but that's not unique to your ball club in this division. There's some really good baseball teams you guys are going to be competing against. How much are you paying attention or not in the offseason, in spring training, to what the Cardinals are doing, to what the Brewers are doing, to what folks in division are doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you hear about teams in your division, you pay a little bit more attention to them. I mean, obviously they all got better. I feel like we got better. You throw you into our rotation, for a full season. That's a huge thing for us. And then we're going to get Brandon back, Morrow, hopefully here in April. We got Descalzo. So, I mean, we did a lot of things, I think small things to make us better. Some of the other teams made a little bit more, I guess, of a splash than we did. But I love where our guys are at. We've been good for 4 years, in a row. So we just got to go out and play the season and compete.
Are you able to look back at last season in the way really in heartbreaking fashion for a really good ball club? It ended that 163rd game and that wild card game. Can that be fuel or something positive for this season, or do you just leave it in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be a positive for us. I mean, I just got done telling somebody before, I think, you had all these young guys that are used to winning 95 games every year and going to the NLCS and winning a World Series. So I think they just thought it was going to be easy, and we show up and we're going to be there. So anytime you get kind of your expectations or I guess kind of swept out from underneath you, guys will come back and be ready to go and have kind of that hunger and that fight that we need throughout this whole 162 game season.
Jon, you're a very accomplished pitcher at the major league level. You've been around for a while. You're a leader. What is your take? What are you hearing from other guys on, I guess, not just this notion, but in a year, this reality of a 3-batter minimum for pitchers?
I don't know. I mean, I think, I guess that's what they want to do. I mean, if that's where MLB thinks they need to go to speed games up, I think that's kind of the whole idea behind things, and then that's where we can go. It's hard to fight some of these rule changes that they're making, and I think we have to give and take at some point. But I mean, it definitely changes the game. It changes how you manage. It changes how the other team gets ready to face you and face your bullpen. So, I think it definitely will change the starting pitching aspect. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. If you go out to face, if you start the seventh and give up a hit, if they can come take you out, I don't know how that works. But yeah, the bullpen, it'll definitely change the bullpen. So I don't know if it'll speed the game up, but it definitely changes the whole kind of cat and mouse game.
I mean, baseball's been around for a long time, and for those of us that love the game, and I do, I'm something of a traditionalist with the sport, but I'll ask you, just in a general sense, how much do you want or think the game should change in substantial ways to meet whatever the idea of new fans is, or be modern, or just remain mostly what it's been for a very long time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of the same way the traditionalist. I think the biggest thing we need to worry about is the product on the field. If you have good products and good teams, the fans will show up and not really be too concerned if it's a 2.5-hour game or a 3.5-hour game. I mean, obviously, as players, and we do this, every day for 7 months, we don't want to sit through a 3.5-hour game. So we're trying to play as fast as we can, and sometimes the game dictates the time. And that's the greatest part about our sport is there's no, close to being no shot clocks or no, quarters or halves or anything like that. So I think as long as you have products, people will fill the seats and owners will continue to make more money.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather spend 6 hours at Wrigley Field than 3.5, but that is just me. Jon, we've seen in the NBA, we've seen in the NFL, the idea of players recruiting other players in free agency on Instagram through text messages. Now, I know Chris Bryant's pretty close with Bryce Harper, so they're buddies. But do you ever get, whether it's Bryce Harper or anyone else, do you ever get involved in just sending random guys notes like, hey, Jon Lester here, let's play together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's happened over the years a couple times, but definitely don't mess with guys that are within their contracts or playing for teams. I think more in free agency. I know when Zoe was trying to sign here, or we were trying to get him to sign here, I answered a couple questions for him. I don't know if that helped him at all, or if that was a deciding factor for him. But yeah, it definitely goes on. I think there's a right and a wrong way to do it. Obviously, when the guy is still under contract with the team, it's obviously a no-no. But when they're in free agency, I think everybody on this team is open to help to get guys to come here.
Harper was linked to a lot of teams, including the Cubs. Obviously, he's a Philly now. Did you engage when he was a free agent in any kind of, hey, man, Wrigley in Chicago, kind of cool, come on over?
No, I think I would imagine during that whole process, if we were involved, I'm sure KB answered more than enough questions or was on him probably daily to sign with us. So I think the buddies probably handled it a little bit more than him calling me.
All right, so you have a campaign, Never Quit, and it's a way to raise money for pediatric cancer research. You have some first-person experience with this disease. Can you tell us about what you're doing and what folks who are watching can do if they want to contribute?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really cool thing for us. I mean, obviously, I've done it for a while now, and we've raised quite a bit of money for pediatric cancer research. And, it's something that is kind of, obviously, like you said, near and dear to my heart. I've had cancer. I've gone through that whole process, and without organizations like the PCRF that do research, I probably wouldn't be here today. So it's a really cool deal what they do. Like you said, it's called Never Quit. We have a night every year. I think this year it's July 17th at Joe's on Weed in Chicago, and we usually have a country artist that comes out and sings and hangs out. It's a country theme. Have some good food, get the guys to come out, a carnival type atmosphere, and for us it's really laid back, but we're obviously all there for a good cause.
Well, my dad is also a cancer survivor, so on behalf of him and so many people, it's great work. Appreciate you, and not just thanks for making time, but as a Cubs fan, I hope you kick the you-know-what out of those Cardinals and those Brewers. Good luck this season, and thanks for being here, man.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, dude. Especially the Cardinals. Definitely kick the you-know-what out of those guys. Lawrence Guy, we got two great guests. Lawrence Guy, the New England Patriot, Super Bowl champion, going to join me here on Reiter's Block in just a minute. right, welcome back into New York City and Writer's Block. I'm Bill Reiter. Earlier had the chance to catch up with New England Patriot Lawrence Guy. Good dude. Enjoyed the conversation. I think you will too. Lawrence Guy, thanks for making time for us, man.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start with the most important thing. Life as a Super Bowl champion. Fill in the blank here. Feels like what the last few months?
Oh, it feels amazing for the last couple of weeks, leading up to the big game and actually winning it. You get to have the whole experience of the graffiti get thrown at you, have your family down there, and the parade is unreal.
What's the and obviously for you guys, your organization, the Patriots, have made an art of not just winning, but, and I know it's a cliche, but staying in the moment, staying focused, not doing a lot of media. What's the moment where it really hit you in an emotional way? I am a Super Bowl champion.
Once you wake up in the morning at 9 a.m. to get on the flight, that's when it really hits you. You're like, hey, I'm not going here losing this time. Because, last year we came out, we lost. So going on that flight is horrible because both teams have to see each other, the families, once you get on the flight because it's the same airport. And this time we were like, okay, now we get to stand in line and see everybody else's family. You see the emotions on everybody, like we really lost this game. You see everybody else just happy. So that's it's a surreal moment when you get to sit there in line, like, well, I'm checking my bag to get on this flight, Super Bowl champ.
So the year before at the flight in Minneapolis, obviously not as pleasant an experience.
Not at all, especially because I knew a lot of people on the team. So I saw their families. I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? They're like, oh, good game. I'm like, yeah. I'll talk to you later.
Lawrence, we've seen the last few days, this week, some massive contracts to a variety of guys around the NFL and free agency, and really not defined by position, just across the spectrum. We've seen a lot of big paydays. There was a lot, almost I think $1 billion in cap money that was available. As a player, give us your perspective as you follow the news and you see big deal after big deal after big deal for guys you play with, guys you play against.
Well, they're truly blessed to get those deals. And you look at it, you don't see a variety of players getting capped anymore. You can see the growth of the contracts through the NFL, and after you can see the players actually getting what they deserve. And as the years keep going on, we can see that the numbers are going to keep going up. And it's not just going to be, hey, you're going to get paid regular price, we're going to do this. No, they're definitely getting the money that they worked hard for the last couple of years. And you can see they're paving the way for the rookies coming in this year and everybody coming on contract in the next couple of years that they actually have a chance to achieve something that we really don't see that much.
All right, if I'm remembering right, you got a $20 million deal with the Patriots. So when you work hard and things go well and you earn that kind of an income, what's the first thing? Was there anything you treated yourself to or treated someone else to? When I was like, all right, I got a little money now. I'm gonna spend it.
I bought a bottle of scotch. That's the first thing I did. It was Belvedere Double Wood, 12-year. Something that was not that expensive, probably like $80, $90, but it's one of those good bottles that I enjoy. So I bought that like the next following day. Other than that, it was just enjoying the experience to actually get to continue to play this game and to continue to have a team look at me for what I was worth, and build with them and continue this journey. And look, it got me a Super Bowl ring, so I'm truly happy about it.
I love that answer. I'm not letting my wife watch this interview, though, because I want to buy a McAllen 18-year, and I don't make $20 million, and she's looking at me like I'm crazy. So maybe I, keep it to 12 or something.
The 18 ain't that expensive. You doing the triple cast or you doing the singles? All depends. I got a couple of them at the house.
Which one? So I got the McAllen 12-year Sherry Oak cast that I love. It's like $80. Yeah, the 18-year was like, well, I live in New York, so it's 150. It's probably 60 everywhere else.
Yeah, you have to get the triple cast is where it's at. The cherry cast is good, but you get the triple cast, you'll love it. Then from there you could just venture out into McAllen.
All right, I'm gonna do it. You've sold me. I'm not gonna tell my wife, and I'm gonna keep her away from the show so she doesn't see this. I want to ask you about your charitable work. And we talked to a lot of guys about the differences they make. And for you, you work with a lot of kids with disabilities, including dyslexia. It's close to home for me because we've got a loved one who's dealing with that and getting their young one evaluated properly and have sort of gone through the experience of what it's like for a child to feel some anger and frustration when you don't know. In this case, we think it is dyslexia. So can you talk a little bit about your personal experience, your charitable work, and what folks can do if they want to contribute?
Well, the best thing is if you know something they have to learn the challenge is to actually talk to them and see what their challenges are. Then talk to their teachers and reach out to understand what is going on. No kid really has a bad attitude towards or behaves negatively. They just don't understand. So most of the time when people act out in class, they're doing it because they're not getting it or they're frustrated at the point where they're like, I see everybody else doing it and I just don't know what else to do. So they just wander. But doing that is the best thing to do is actually ask what's going on and walk through it and be involved in your kid's life and be involved in somebody's life that's actually struggling with that. And like for me, I didn't get diagnosed with dyslexia until I was 20. So we didn't know how to learn the challenge growing up. So it wasn't no name on it because most of the time no one wants to pay for the testing. And that was with my situation. There was the heavy testing that only certain people knew about it, but they didn't really tell us about it because they didn't want to pay for it through their program. So actually understanding what testings are available for that age group, getting them tested, or reaching out to your local counselors or your school district to understand the full benefits you could get. And it's sit there and it's walk through the steps, and that's the best thing. Like I was just working out a couple of days ago and the kid had autism, and I'm looking at one of the trainers and I'm like, the best way you could do with this kid with autism is sit there and work with him next to him, doing every single exercise, because he'll sit there and look at you and repeat what you're doing and see if he's doing it right. Then tell him he's doing a good job. Even if it's not exactly perfect, it's also him trying to attempt to do it. It's doing a good job.
Yeah, all of that rings very familiar, and I love the work you're doing. I appreciate you. Thanks for being on, and congratulations on getting to go to the airport after this Super Bowl and have everybody on your side of the equation smiling. Congrats on the championship. Congrats on the success. Have a great offseason. We'd love to do this again sometime.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
All right, that's all for all of us here at Writer's Block, though. I'm going to stick around and hang out with Tommy Tran in about 2 minutes. And then 30 minutes from now, Hakeem 9-0 Dermish. The guy who's been amazing on his best bets. Take it over on Sportsline. Have a great weekend. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you on the program on Monday.